Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant congestion persists on the southbound A470 between Nantgarv and Corriton, causing delays. The M27 is congested near Portsmouth, with delays easing soon. Westbound M62 is down to one lane due to a blaze. In Plymouth, a vehicle on the A38 necessitates cautious navigation. The A9 at Calvine faces restrictions for maintenance. And on the trains, Greater Anglia faces disruptions between Ipswich and Norwich, while Great Western Railway runs a reduced service between Reading and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think that things have gone a little bit too far in this country. The fact of the matter is that any well-trained journalist does know that free speech does have to exist in a certain environment where you can't be defamatory and you can't incite racial hatred or violence. We know that because we're trained to recognise it. But what's happened here in this country is we've chucked the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
What's happened now is that everyone is starting to react to fairly, not innocent phrases exactly, but we're starting to become really obsessive about things that don't actually matter and people should be allowed to speak about. Lucy Connolly's she's a case in point. If you think that the actual Prime Minister now is leading the charge, along with Shabnam Mahmood, to actually shorten jail sentences or have no jail sentences for some criminals, and yet Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months and loses her appeal, you've got to start asking yourself, what is going on here?
And also, can I just add, Paul Richards, Keir Starmer asked about Lucy Connolly. He says, oh, sorry, I'm not across the case. Come on, pull the other leg. By the way, I don't want to just talk about Lucy Connolly. This is free speech in Britain. Free speech, in my book, does not exist in Britain.
Well, technically, you're right, of course, because we can't just say whatever we like. We can't walk into a crowded theatre and shout fire, right? And I can't say so-and-so's a paedophile or so-and-so's a terrorist without, you know, there being some evidence for that. We can't just say whatever we like anywhere we like. We have boundaries and rules. And you know, I would say to the Americans coming over and lecturing us on how to run the place, you know, they display total ignorance of our system so often. If you vox pop American citizens, they don't know where England is. They think our Prime Minister is King Charles.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. It is 9:30. It is Friday, the 6th of June. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Nana Queer, and Ben Leo. But the bromance is over. Elon Musk calls for the US president to be impeached as the war of words boils over. It all started over Trump's tax bill.
Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here. Better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
You know, he really is in a class of his own. And frankly, I'm sad that he's going.
Yes, drama this side of the pond as well. Reform UK Party Chairman Zia Youssef quits after that row over whether to ban the burqa. But is there any way back into the party now for Rupert Lowe?
I'd rather eat razor blades after the way he's behaved and the things he said about us. No.
A Labour win overnight. Davy Russell pulled off a shock victory in the Hamilton by-election as support for the SNP collapses and Reform finished third.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of Reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here.
Labour pull a shock win here in Hamilton, beating the SNP in second place and Reform are third. The Tories are nowhere. Are we about to see the end of 18 years of SNP rule here in Scotland at next year's Holyrood elections?
NHS shake-up. Labour tells millions of patients to avoid A&E and head to new same-day clinics instead. We'll have all the latest.
A bonus ban. Bosses of Britain's biggest water companies are banned from getting bonuses in a crackdown on pollution and sewage spills. Good.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Yes, God bless you, Sir Winston. 81 years since D-Day, and GB News remembers those who laid down their lives to secure our freedom.
Arise, Sir Beckham. He's hit the post, he's hit the bar, but next week, David Beckham will finally hit the back of the net, as it looks like he'll be awarded a knighthood.
Very good morning to you. Thank you for your company. Hope you've had a good week. Nana, what do you make of Sarah Pochin's question in the Commons about the burqa? Ban the burqa, yes or no?
Do you know what? I just think that, why go there? You don't need to go there right now. It is a wasted question. I think she could have been talking about the people coming across via the small boats. I don't, maybe... I know she asked some of the constituents to provide her with some questions, and then she would potentially use one of them. I think that was one of them. I don't know why she bothered with that one. You could talk about that at some point, but I don't think it is the most poignant thing that we need to be discussing.
It got the Commons on their feet, though. Did you hear the whispers and the gasps?
Yeah, to me, it was just a bit of... It was a bit of PR to get across the kind of message that Reform are, serious about, keeping this country, really kind of with this British culture and everything else like that.
I mean, is that not important?
Well, it is important.
Because lots of people feel like it's eroding away.
No, but I do think that's really important. But what my point was that what I wanted her to be talking about was maybe the boats. I want to talk about the boats. We can do the burqa later, but the boats, man.
I hear you. Let us know what you think.
Talk about the boats.
gbnews.com/your say. Ban the burqa, or was it a wasted question, as Nana says? Big 2.5 hours coming up, including, by the way, Kemi Badenoch's talking live about the potential of leaving the ECHR. To be honest, I don't know why they haven't made up their minds yet. I mean, just get on with it.
I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they only got 6% of the electorate in the by-election in Hamilton.
Yeah.
I just think they're clutching at straws. What do you think? Stay with us, though. But first, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much. The top story, Scottish Labour's Davy Russell has won the Hamilton by-election. Mr Russell took top spot with 8,559 votes. The SNP placed second place with 7,957 votes. Reform UK closely taking third with 7,088 votes. The Tories, meanwhile, dropped to just 6% of the vote. Upon being announced winner, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's party.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, shrugged off the loss, painting it as a win.
I expect the other two main parties will be reflecting, goodness me, what have we got wrong that someone could come from nowhere with limited resources and achieve such an outstanding result.
Meanwhile, Zia Youssef has quit as chairman of Reform UK with immediate effect, saying he no longer believes getting a Reform government elected is a good use of his time. It follows a row over what he described as dumb burqa ban questions from Reform's newest MP, a policy he said wasn't even party-backed. Nigel Farage says Youssef had clearly had enough, but called him a huge factor in the party's rise. Meanwhile, Labour's accused Reform of not being serious, while the Lib Dems mocked Youssef for sacking himself. And Elon Musk says Donald Trump appears in files relating to the disgraced paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. He gave no evidence for the claim. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed the comment. Musk has called for the president to be impeached. It's the latest in the string of barbs between the men as they appear to have dramatically fallen out in a public spat. Epstein killed himself in his jail cell in August 2019 while awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking minors. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. Ben and Nana with you on Britain's Newsroom on GB News this morning.
Otherwise known as Ben Anna.
Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, Labour have triumphed ahead of the SNP in reform in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election.
Yes, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's party.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Right, let's go live now to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, who joins us from Hamilton. So, Christopher, what more can you tell us?
Morning, Nana, and morning, Ben. Great to see you. I'm still here in Hamilton, where people here are waking up to realise they are now got a Labour MSP here, not an SNP one. They've had one since 2011. We're just south of Glasgow. Normally this has been an SNP seat for a long time, but no longer. But there are two big winners from last night. Obviously Labour, a huge turn up for the books there, not expected. Nationally, a difficult time for Labour. Sir Keir Starmer having not an easy ride post that landslide in number 10 Downing Street, and also issues, I think, for Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader. That's all gone away now, as the party can look forward to maybe unseating the SNP in next year's Holyrood elections after 18 years. The other big winner, of course, yes, Reform UK. All three major parties, Labour, SNP and the Tories, shed votes, but they didn't. The SNP, the Reform UK, I think, are the party to watch here, leaping forward to 7,000 votes from just 58 in 2001.
Thank you, Chopper.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Right, well, today marks 81 years since the D-Day markings, marking the anniversary of the Normandy landings. Now, the event that eventually led to the collapse of Adolf Hitler's regime.
Yes, veterans have made the journey to Normandy today for a special commemorative service.
Well, joining us now is the former attorney for England and Wales, Sir Michael Ellis. So, Michael, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. So this is obviously a very important sort of commemoration, or an anniversary, as it were. 81 years. Seems an odd number to be sort of commemorating, but, you know, hey.
Well, they do it every year. So, of course, at the seminal events, the decade events, obviously they're often very much bigger. But it happens every single year, and rightly so, because this was a critical turning point, not only in the war, in World War II, but actually it was a critical turning point in the history of the world. This marked the beginning of the end of the war, in the sense that the Allies actually were taking the battle by land, by sea and by air to the Nazis in Europe, and it carried with it, unfortunately, a very high cost in loss of life. But it remains, even today, 81 years on, the largest ever invasion, land invasion, but also sea and air, ever to have taken place. And it's a seminal event in history. And it, of course, soon thereafter led to the liberation of Paris, and General Eisenhower taking control in Europe from Versailles, in fact, from as Supreme Allied Commander. So this was a turning point in history.
Yeah, and so, Michael, it was an amazing invasion, a tragic one as well, with the amount of lives lost, but also the story behind it. I was reading that Sir Winston, and we heard his words there in the introduction to the show, which still today gives me goosebumps and tingles. He persuaded Roosevelt and Stalin in 1942. Those two wanted to carry out a D-Day style operation many years before, but it was Sir Winston who said, no, just hold off. We're not ready yet, just hold off.
That's right, and in fact he wanted to be there himself on D-Day, and there was a big sort of argument behind the scenes about, because he of course had been a military officer going back to the Victorian period. He wanted to be there himself. He knew how important it was. But in fact, what he did was make sure that the timing was right, because, of course, one can imagine how catastrophic it would have been if it had not gone well. As it was, despite the success of the event, it led to the loss of tens of thousands of lives. And the event that's taking place today at the British Normandy Memorial marks the loss of over 22,400 British service personnel, and in fact those under British military command at the time. So tens of thousands of British and Allied losses alone. And on D-Day itself, of course, over 1,500 British lives were lost.
And so, sorry to interrupt, so many young lives as well. I mean, like stories of people, young lads lying about their age because they wanted to fight.
Absolutely.
16-year-old.
Ben, you're right. The youngest known casualty was only 16 years of age from the Durham Light Infantry. I believe the oldest, in fact, that fell was 64 at the time. So that in itself is quite remarkable that he was on scene. But the courage, the sacrifice, the duty that these people showed, it's right that we remember that 81 years on. And the beautiful memorial, actually, that's there above Gold Beach, actually is relatively new. It was only unveiled by His Majesty the King in 2021, marking the 75th anniversary. So it took some time for it to be constructed, but I think it's a stunning memorial, in fact, and it's one that people really do find very beautiful.
We just saw Defence Sec Sir John Healey there at the memorial. Should we try and take a quick listen?
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, our splendid veterans, ladies and gentlemen, Monsieur le Préfet, Madame la Maire, Mesdames et Messieurs, bienvenue ce matin au Memorial Britannique Normandy. You are all very warmly welcomed this morning to the British Memorial here in Vers-sur-Mer for our act of commemoration on this 81st anniversary of D-Day and the start of the Normandy campaign. The campaign which opened the pathway to the defeat of tyranny and oppression and led to victory in Europe in May 1945, which we celebrated on the 8th of May this year as the 80th anniversary of that Victory in Europe Day. But today we are gathered here in this very special place overlooking Gold Beach, where the 50th Tyne-Tees Northumbrian Division landed on the morning of the 6th of June 1944, and overlooking Arromanches, where the Mulberry Harbour, known as Port Winston, was situated, and through which so much of the logistic supplies necessary for the campaign flowed. We remember here on this memorial the 22,442 brave servicemen and women under British command who fought and fell in the Normandy campaign. We remember too the thousands of French civilians who died as the Allied armies fought their way to Paris and beyond. The price of returning peace and freedom to Europe was very high. But the legacy of the fallen and the courage, determination and commitment of all those who fought in the campaign has given us the Europe in which we live today, albeit sadly in the shadow of the war in Ukraine. I would like to thank, on behalf of all of us here, Richard Paluzinski and his team from the Spirit of Normandy Trust for organising this special event here today at the British Memorial. This memorial to those who fought and fell was opened in 2021, and last year we were honoured that His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen jointly opened the Winston Churchill Centre for Education and Learning. To us in the Normandy Memorial Trust, we believe that the story of what happened in Normandy in 1944 must be told to future generations so that memories are kept alive and that lessons are learnt from history. So let us join together this morning and remember with great thanks all those who fought and fell in 1944. We will remember them. But let us also celebrate all those who fought to bring peace and freedom to Europe in 1945. Those gallant men and women are wonderfully represented here today by our splendid group of Normandy veterans. We are most privileged to be in your company. We salute you all.
Veterans and friends, we gather in the presence of Almighty God to take part in this commemoration of D-Day and the Battle of Normandy, to give thanks for all Normandy veterans and to honour fallen comrades. Let us remember before God all who took part in the Normandy landings, for victory achieved on land, at sea and in the air, and for the liberation of so many from occupation and oppression. We give you thanks for those comrades who served in the Allied forces, who gave their lives so courageously, and whom we remember with pride. We pray that, loyal to their example, we may strive for peace, freedom and security.
Jesus said, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends."
If you've just joined us, this is GB News, just coming up to 10 o'clock. That, of course, we are taking the D-Day 81st anniversary ceremony live. We are joined in the studio by former Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis. The speaker that you heard, first of all, was Lord Dannatt. He's Richard Dannatt, a retired senior British Army officer and a member of the House of Lords. He was also the Chief of the General Staff, head of the British Army from 2006 to 2009. So, Michael, we've been looking at this. I mean, you know, it's so amazing that all these young people, over 22,000 people, died that day.
There were tragic losses, and of course General Dannatt ably represents the British military forces. As you say, Nana, he was Chief of the General Staff between 2006 and 2009. This is a commemorative service now, and I believe a hymn is being sung by this soloist, "I Vow to Thee My Country," which is a hymn that's very much a favourite of service personnel then and now. But the Normandy landings, which began 81 years ago, just after midnight on the 6th of June 1944, they began by the taking of bridges by glider, and they were followed thereafter by the landing on amphibious craft of tens of thousands of military personnel. And many viewers will remember those names of the beaches, the Americans on Omaha Beach and Utah Beach, the British on Gold and Juno and many others. And it was that sacrifice, it was that absolute service that we see being commemorated today.
We'll just take a listen to this bit of opera. Let's take a quick listen. the veterans there with the blankets over them in the wheelchairs at the front. I mean, not very many of them left these days, which is why these occasions are so important to keep commemorating.
Very
much.
much
We were talking about the 5 beaches: Omaha, Utah, Gold, Juneau, Sword. Was it Omaha that had the most casualties because of the high cliffs?
Well, the Americans suffered many, many casualties, and in fact, the casualties were enormous, but they could have been so much worse. What was really extraordinary, especially by modern standards, is how it remained a secret from the Nazis. When you think about the preparations that were involved, Ben and Nana, when you think about the deliberate deceptions that the Allies played on the Germans, which worked, when you think about the logistics, the enormous logistics, you know, sometimes they say the ancients that built the pyramids, we wouldn't be able to do that today, even with all the modern technology we now have. I venture to suggest, would we be able to keep an operation like this secret today that they were able to keep 80+ years ago?
No, somebody would tweet about it. That's not going to happen.
Or leak about it.
Yeah, but what is quite incredible is the number of nationalities who died that day. 38 nationalities lost their lives.
That's right.
So
and this British memorial here, which is so beautiful and a British design, it commemorates 30 nationalities that fought under British command, because of course there are memorials for the other allies as well, but under British command we had 30 nationalities, many of course Canadians and so on.
So Michael, you talked about the deception. We'll get on that in the next hour, but the SAS, for example, dumped dummy paratroopers over the coast of Le Havre to fool the Germans, so it was an amazing piece of deception. Lots more to it as well. We'll get to that.
And the SOE as well, Special Operations Executive.
Thank you, Sir Michael. We'll be in Normandy all morning. Still ahead though, what's next for the Reform Party as Chairman Zia Youssef quits over the burqa ban row? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start for some of us, but that early rain is clearing east, and then it's a day of sunny spells and showers. Feeling cool, particularly where we've got some gusty winds in between the showers, but pleasant enough in the sunshine out of the breeze. Here's that early rain. It's pushing into the North Sea by mid-morning. Many places are brighter, but still with a lot of cloud and a mix of sunny spells as well as showers. The best of the sunshine in the south and across some western coasts, but inland plenty of these showers will pop up. They'll be hit and miss, as is always the case with showers. Temperatures will be around the high teens, so continuing to feel on the cool side for the time of year. Then the showers ease across eastern parts as we end the day, although still some continuing across the north and the east of Scotland. We've got some late sunshine to come through the Western Isles, the Central Belt, Glasgow, for example. Cumbria doing well as we end Friday, but still areas of cloud and showers, particularly across Northern Ireland, and an area of more persistent rain starting to turn up across Cornwall. And this marks the beginning of an unsettled start to the weekend. We've got low pressure arriving from the west, and through Friday night and into the early hours of Saturday, we're going to see spells of rain spread in, especially across parts of Western England and Wales, along the south coast. And the wind will pick up towards the south and southwest as that low pressure arrives. Of course, that'll keep things relatively mild, double figures as we start the weekend, but a lot of unsettled weather to begin things on Saturday. The liveliest showers will be across Wales and the west of England first thing. Some thunderstorms, some hail, gusty winds, gales around southern and southwestern coasts. Not good at all if you've got outdoor plans this weekend, but it does turn a little drier by Sunday with a better chance of some bright spells.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A898 northbound near Erskine Bridge has lane 1 blocked due to a broken down vehicle. The A470 southbound between Nantgarv and Corryton is congested. In Durham, one lane on the A66 eastbound is closed for a broken-down vehicle. In Surrey, a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise exit slip at junction 9 causes disruptions with one lane closed. On the M5 northbound in Somerset, a tyre change closed a lane between junction 23 and 22. And on the trains, Great Western Railway reports a reduced service between Reading and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Friday, June the 6th, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom, with Ben Leo and Nana Akweer. I hate my ex, says the New York Post, as Elon Musk calls for the US president to be impeached as the war of words boils over. It all started over Donald Trump's tax bill.
Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here. Better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Labour win overnight. Davy Russell pulls off a shock victory in the Hamilton by-election as support of the SNP collapses and Reform finished a healthy third.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of Reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here.
Labour Scottish leader Anna Sarwar gets ready for a victory rally here in Hamilton after beating the SNP and Reform and the Tories to add a further MSP to their total. But what's next? Is the SNP's days as being in power for 18 years numbered now in Holyrood?
You know, he really is in a class of his own, and frankly, I'm sad that he's going.
Drama this side of the pond too. Reform UK Party Chairman Zia Youssef quits after that row over whether to ban the burqa. But is there any way back into the party for a said Rupert Lowe?
I'd rather eat razor blades after the way he's behaved and the things he said about us. No.
NHS shake-up. Labour tells millions of patients to avoid A&E and head to new same-day clinics instead. We'll have the latest.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
The The voice of Sir Winston Churchill there, 81 years since D-Day, and GB News remembers those who laid down their lives to secure our freedom.
Arise, Sir Beckham. He's hit the post, he's hit the bar, but next week David Beckham will finally hit the back of the net, as it looks like he'll be awarded a knighthood. You see, watching that D-Day commemoration, 81 years, you know, we've been doing that every year. I asked myself, would the young people of today be prepared to fight for their country? And I don't think they would.
I think the polls show, unfortunately, not. But I think that's partly down. I was just speaking to Sir Michael Ellis about this. I don't recall at school, during history lessons, learning about D-Day or World War II very much. And I dread to think what it's like now. I don't think young people today would be learning about D-Day.
I think that, you know, like, I hear my little Ivory, he's only 8, talking about the Fire of London and all the historical stuff, but he hasn't really spoken about the wars or anything like that, because he does tell me everything. And I do think that I don't remember that at all. I remember the slave trade. You know, that was pretty inaccurate, you know, the way they talked about that. But I don't remember D-Day at all.
No, I don't. I think we'll catch up with Sir Michael again in just a second and go, indeed, back to France for those live pictures. But we'll ask Sir Michael about that. I think there is a campaign from certain quarters for education to sort of be revamped, gearing more towards the military history of the UK, World War II, World War I and so on, and amazing operations and tragic at the same time, such as D-Day.
Yeah, it's a problem sometimes with history, though. It depends who's writing it as to what version you get. But stay with us. gbnews.com/you're safe for your comments. But first, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much. The top stories just after 10 o'clock. Scottish Labour's Davy Russell has won the Hamilton by-election. Mr Russell took top spot with 8,559 votes. The SNP placed second with 7,957 votes. Reform UK closely taking third on 7,088 votes. The Tories, meanwhile, dropped to just 6% of the vote. Upon being announced winner, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's party.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, shrugged off the loss, painting it as a win.
I expect the other two main parties will be reflecting, goodness me, what have we got wrong that someone could come from nowhere with limited resources and achieve such an outstanding result.
Meanwhile, Zia Youssef has quit as chairman of Reform UK with immediate effect, saying he no longer believes getting a Reform government elected is a good use of his time. It follows a row over what he described as dumb burqa ban questions from Reform's newest MP, a policy he said wasn't even party-backed. Nigel Farage says Youssef had clearly had enough, but called him a huge factor in the party's rise. Meanwhile, Labour's accused Reform of not being serious, while the Lib Dems mocked Youssef for sacking himself. Elsewhere, Elon Musk says Donald Trump appears in files relating to the disgraced paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. He gave no evidence for the claim. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed the comment. Musk has called for the president to be impeached. It's the latest in a string of barbs between the men as they appear to have dramatically fallen out in a public spat. Epstein killed himself in his jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking minors. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is expected to announce a new commission to assess whether the UK should withdraw from the ECHR. Tory peer and former Justice Minister Lord Wolfson is expected to lead that review. The move follows recent government efforts to limit the ECHR's influence on UK immigration cases amid growing concerns that the treaty is obstructing deportation policies and legal reforms. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp spoke to GB News Breakfast.
We actually did pass a law suspending, essentially disapplying the Human Rights Act when it came to Rwanda, but obviously we ran out of time and the election happened. Look, we know we can't mess around anymore. We know the last government, well, successive governments, but including the last government, made mistakes on immigration, right? We know that, we accept that, big mistakes. We are determined that the Conservative Party under new leadership will never make those mistakes again. We have learned and we are developing, and have developed in some cases already, detailed, credible plans to sort this out. Those include things like a binding annual cap on migration, for instance, and now this policy on the ECHR. We are serious about this.
In other news, almost £450 million is being invested in the NHS in England to cut hospital waiting times, the Health Secretary has announced. Wes Streeting says his NHS reforms aim to deliver around 40 new centres to fast-track treatment for patients, up to 15 mental health crisis assessment units and almost 500 new ambulances. It's part of an attempt to shift patients away from A&E and avoid unnecessary hospital admissions. Wes Streeting says no patient should ever be left waiting for hours in hospital corridors or for an ambulance which ought to arrive in minutes.
Means about 800,000 more people will be seen within the 4 hours that they should have done. Now, over more than a decade now, we haven't been in the NHS meeting those critical targets. This will set us on the right direction, delivering the year-on-year improvements we want to see. And the fact that we're announcing this in June shows this is a government that's getting ahead of this winter, properly planning ahead. Can't promise to have solved all the problems this winter, but I can assure people that I and the NHS team that I lead are working tirelessly to get the NHS from where it was, the worst crisis in its history, to make sure it's back on its feet.
David Beckham is to be awarded a knighthood in the King's Birthday Honours List. The former Manchester United and England star, who recently celebrated his 50th birthday, will be confirmed as a Sir when the list is released next week, according to The Sun. His wife and former Spice Girl Victoria Beckham will be known as Lady Beckham. The King was heard congratulating the former England footballer at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show in London on his landmark celebrations, and he asked David Beckham whether he'd received their gift. And today marks 81 years since D-Day, marking the anniversary of the Normandy landings, the event that eventually led to the collapse of Adolf Hitler's regime. Veterans have made the journey to Normandy today for a special commemorative service. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me at 10:30.
Good morning, hello and welcome to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Ben Leo and me, Nana Aguirre.
Morning to you. Joining us also now is former Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis, as a, let's best described as a wonderful tribute being paid to our D-Day veterans in Normandy today in France. So Michael, just before the break, we were talking about the extravagant deception plans from the Allies.
Yes.
I briefly mentioned that the SAS, the night before the raid, were dropping dummy paratroopers across northern France and Le Havre. Just tell us more about that.
And you and Nana were talking about young people not being taught about World War II, but there are so many extraordinary stories, so many exciting stories that could be taught and should be being taught that would actually enrapture young people and fascinate young people. Only one, for example, only one Victoria Cross was awarded on D-Day itself, and that was a colour sergeant major called Hollis, Stan Hollis, who himself led a firefight against Nazi forces, sort of solo, and repeatedly went back, machine gunning enemy lines. The bravery of that man alone is a story very much worth reading up and looking into. And that's just one story. There's actually a hut at the scene of where we've been looking today on television, the memorial, the Normandy Memorial, to honour and commemorate his service. He actually survived well after the war, but his bravery was wholly exceptional, and he, as I say, was the only VC from action on D-Day itself. But there were thousands of people who took part and whose bravery was exemplary, and I think young people, part of the message for this commemoration, I was in touch with General Lord Dannatt about it, is actually about engaging young people. It is, of course, to commemorate the fallen, but it's also to mark a lesson for the future. And for that, we do need to engage young people, and that's why they've recently, over there at Normandy, have opened only last year the Winston Churchill Centre for Education and Learning, which is all about school visits, very much worthwhile. Getting your school, if you're a parent whose children are at school age, who can actually go and visit, because that is something that I think really will fascinate.
You know, looking at this ceremony, and we are bringing you live pictures from it, I wonder whether really next year when they commemorate this, they could perhaps get young people there or do something for the children. Do you know what I mean? Because I appreciate that it is people who died and fought,
Yes.
But as you say, getting more young people engaged in what happened there, learning about some of the incredible people, the stories.
Yes, there are young people actually taking part in this commemoration today. I think there are some primary school children from the local village, French village, school.
But I mean, even in the schools now, right now as it's happening.
Oh, taking part, watching.
Schools could be doing more. You come into school with your, I don't know, wear a hat or you wear something that talks about.
And to learn about the fact, Nana, you're quite right, that there were 5,000 ships that took part that day. Even experienced military personnel flying over on the morning of the 6th of June 1944 were just blown away by the sheer vast number, as far as the eye could see, of 5,000 landing craft. There were 11,000 planes. There was 160,000 ground personnel. The logistics today are unfathomable to sort of modern military generations. And it was a remarkable success. But it was a strategic success, yes, but it was a morale-boosting success as well. And it was only a short time later that summer that the Nazis were expelled from Paris. The liberation of Paris followed. And I think this is a lesson that can and should be learned by modern generations. The veterans today that are present are between 99 and 102 years of age.
Wow.
And it's obvious that in due course there won't be any veterans left, and we have to continue to mark their service and sacrifice, because if you think those young men, they're now 99 to 102, but they were 18 to 21 years of age when they landed on D-Day and took part in that amazing victory. And I think that we recognise by watching this service that even many years later, it's right that we commemorate what they did, the service and sacrifice that they expended on those beaches at great personal cost. Even those that survived, of course, are left with lasting memories of what occurred.
Do you think that young people there should be a form of some sort of military service, or some, say, after their sixth form, to do a compulsory year so that they are prepared in a sense?
This is something that's been explored before. Whether it would also include some type of social service for those that don't want to engage in the military, that's a debatable point. But I do think we can't expect our country to be protected and our rights and our freedoms to be protected by an ever-decreasing number of military personnel, when actually the responsibility is for all of us to cherish what we have and the rights and freedoms that the fallen 22,500 fell on that day, British military forces.
Should we take a quick listen before we move on to the national anthem? Let's see if we can tune in.
Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
For your views. It's just coming up to 17 minutes after 10 o'clock, and Labour have triumphed ahead of the SNP and Reform in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election.
Yes, after being announced as the winner, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's Reform UK.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Yeah, great result for Reform, and they were third, of course. They lost the by-election, but it
26%,
shows they're making big
good,
ground in Scotland.
Yeah, 26%. The Conservatives got 6. Toast.
Columnist for the Scotsman and former MSP Brian Monteith joins us now. Good morning to you. Thank you for your company, Brian. What's your take on what we saw overnight, please?
Well, I think it's a particularly poor result for the SNP. They had, in fact, begged Labour voters to support them, to support the so-called far-right bogeyman of Reform UK and Nigel Farage. In that respect, it failed. Labour voters came out in numbers that were unexpected. And, of course, Reform did amazingly well, rising from about 7% in the Westminster constituency area in Hamilton last July to 26% in the Holyrood constituency this time, with far less resources, with no data really to go on. And it was the data in the end that probably won it for Labour, because they flooded the constituency yesterday, people pulling out known Labour voters and encouraging them to vote. And I think that's what it came down to in the end. A bit more time, and actually Reform could have won it. So it's a good result for Reform, a good result for Nigel Farage, a good result for Labour, but a dreadful result for the SNP.
In a way, although, because obviously I don't think the SNP are any good, it's good that another party is now in charge of that area. But do you think, actually, looking at this, that what we're seeing is the SNP really crumbling and fading, and in the end, Scotland may well go back to becoming run by Labour?
Well, this, of course, was a by-election, and that brings in all sorts of different components, particularly the ability to get your troops in and concentrate in a seat. And where that seat is, and whether you have a local candidate, such as Davy Russell clearly is, can make a difference. When you've got an election across the whole of the country and you have to spread your resources to where you think they'll be most effective, that will make a difference, and that will give the SNP more strength. And of course, in the main, the SNP is the leading nationalist party and will appeal to most nationalists, and so can expect to be in the region of 28-30%, whereas in all the other seats, the pro-UK parties tend to split their vote. It was not a bad result for the Conservatives, in as much as they did not lose their deposit, which was the big word.
What's the deposit in Scotland, Brian? Is it 500 quid?
Yeah, but they are looking like toast, except in probably a few redouts where they have personalities or historical connection with.
All right, Brian, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for your company.
Thank you.
GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster joins us now. Catherine, it's going to be short and sweet, unfortunately. What is next for Reform UK? Zia Youssef, the chairman, he's gone. He quit sensationally last night. I think to the shock of Nigel Farage, no?
Yes, absolutely. Both Nigel Farage and Richard Tice said that he is a huge loss. And indeed he is, because he professionalised the party. He put in a lot of money. He worked incredibly hard. And it's 5 weeks to the day that I was standing in Runcorn when Sarah Pochin won that by-election by 5 votes. I interviewed Nigel Farage. I interviewed Sarah Pochin. I interviewed Zia Youssef there for GB News. He told me that Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister. Now, he says it's not a good use of his time. I've been speaking to senior people within Reform this morning, They have told me that Zia Yusuf's departure was a long time coming, but also that the sort of turf war about who does what within the party, that is not really accurate. What the straw that broke the camel's back appears to have been was Sarah Pochin's comments to the Prime Minister at PMQs asking for a ban on the burqa. Zia Yusuf did not approve of that, called it dumb yesterday, and now he has gone quite an extraordinary turn of events.
All right, Catherine Forster, thank you very much. I'm inclined to agree with him. I don't know why she bothered asking that question. It's just not good use of their time. But stay with us. Up next, the war of words between Donald Trump and Elon Musk heats up as the tech billionaire supports calls for the US president to be impeached. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Are these two things linked? Is an excess of belly fat perhaps hindering our children's education?
Good morning. So you're quite right. It's not the actual belly fat that is causing the brain problem. It's more that what causes the belly fat to exist is also causing issues in the brain, essentially. So the belly fat is almost a side effect, and so is the reduced learning, the memory, the mood issues that we're seeing in the brain. So it's very important to understand that those two things are correlated, and actually the problems that go behind it are what we need to target. So it's not just about, we're not just trying to body shame young people, we're actually trying to look at what are the cofactors, essentially. So that could be sleep, lack of exercise, overuse of technology, loneliness, would you believe it? And of course, diet.
The headline essentially has run away with itself. It's conflating the two and making it sound like belly fat is an issue for our children's education, when in reality, it's a matter of actually we need to be encouraging healthier habits, a better diet, more sleep, as you mentioned, loneliness, for example. Is it healthy, though, for these headlines to suggest, like you said, potential for body shaming, potential for, parents getting the wrong impression? Is that what the real issue here is?
I mean, everything has a positive and a negative side. If any parent looks at this and thinks, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my child is getting a little bit podgier around the middle, I need to do something, and kicks them into action. And same with children, it's not a bad idea to inform them and educate them about diet and exercise, and it's good to know about those things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 10:25. Ben and Nana with you on Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Right, joining us now, broadcaster and writer Emma Trimble and also political commentator Andy Williams. They join us in the studio. Good morning. Right, so let's start with the Civil War. Reform UK. The question about banning the burqa, I personally don't think it was necessary to be making that question. I just don't see what it would add. Emma, where do you stand with all of that?
I think of all of the things that are facing us at the moment, of all of the most important issues, I don't think that banning the burqa is right up there. I actually think banning the burqa would be a kind of cosmetic solution to a much deeper problem. But the fact that Zia Yusuf, the unelected chairman or unelected former chairman, would come out and suggest that two of Reform's MPs asking that question is dumb, I think has led many people to ask who was making party policy. Is it the unelected chairman, or is it the MPs who sit in Parliament who have the backing of their constituents? I mean, MPs are supposed to represent the interests of their constituents, not just the interests of their party. So I think it's absolutely fair, if this is something that concerns their constituents, that they ask that in Parliament.
Would you ban the burqa?
I think it's a difficult one because I'm instinctively uncomfortable with the government telling people what they should wear. However, I think the burqa is a sectarian symbol. I think it's misogynistic, and I think there are also very good reasons to ban it.
Safety-wise, security-wise, that's, if I was going to ban it, it'd be for those reasons and those reasons alone. Andy Williams.
On the burqa, I basically agree with Emma. I think it's a really tricky one. I genuinely don't know what I think about it. I'd want to think about it a lot more, but
But what about
also,
security reasons and stuff like that? Because
that's a problem.
That's the problem with it. Ultimately, if you're...
That is undoubtedly a problem. So perhaps a middle ground would be to say that people have to show their face in in certain circumstances. But there's also, where do you draw the line question? You know, other forms of religious dress, would they then be under threat? I mean...
Well, every form of dress, really. I mean, you could... It has that as a generic thing, that if you are going somewhere in public, you need to show your face. So
right.
But Andy, sorry, aren't all these little things like the burqa, not speaking English, first cousin marriages and so on, all these little things in isolation, OK, fair enough, you can let them slide, but at some point, surely... I mean, I'm with you, I'm traditionally a libertarian, right? But surely you have to start thinking about being a conservative and conserving your culture. All these things combined.
But you're a libertarian. You're only a libertarian until you don't agree with...
I'm more of a conservative.
Until you don't agree with what's being decided.
I think there needs to be a way to encourage people to assimilate and to sort of live the values of the country that they are living in and that they move to. I'm not massively in favour of compelling people to do certain things, but I think the language is an important one. At the very least, if you live in Britain, you should be able to speak English so that you can basically interact with the state, for example. And if you're a child, you should be going to school and speaking English and learning English.
Do you agree with Zia Youssef that it was a bit dumb of her to ask that question?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Because I actually think where reform has been successful is by going really big on living standards. So that's why they're so popular in the Red Wall, and on immigration. These are the things that people care about. They're getting poorer, their lives are getting worse, and I think the burqa is basically, in the scheme of things, is a marginal issue. It feels like very 2005 UKIP politics, not 2025 reform politics.
And it is, and ultimately, if you do sort out mass migration, then things that are not sort of culturally similar to this country won't be so relevant. So, you know, you need to fix the root, which is the mass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
is why I say that I think, in the grand scheme of things, it's a cosmetic solution to a much deeper problem. And actually, I do think, though, we need to move away from this idea that everything needs to establish a general principle. It doesn't. It is possible to take action against one specific thing for a specific reason. And in the case of the burqa, I think there are good reasons, grounded in the fact that it is a symbol of sectarian religious ideology, that you could make for banning the burqa. But I think you're right, Nana. I think that the issue is to do with radical forms of Islam. The issue is to do with mass migration from countries where the culture is not compatible with British culture. That's the conversation that we need to be having. What would be preferable to banning the burqa would be people integrating into British culture and us not needing to ban anything at all.
On the implications for reform, just briefly, I think there are two problems that this poses. One is that it takes us back to this problem that Farage is so central to the party, and that's part of reform's appeal. Of course it is. Lots of people are basically voting for Nigel Farage, not for reform. But they need to decentralise power within that party, because if they're going to become a party that can win a general election, they need more figureheads. And I think Zia Youssef...
Let's be honest. Whether you like Nigel Farage or not, he's a rock-star politician. I don't think there's anything bad. Donald Trump did it. He won office based on his singularity.
Even Boris Johnson.
I think it's different because we have a different system here, and I do think you need other serious figures.
The principle is the same. The principle is the same.
It's true that obviously in the States they have a presidential system and you elect the president, and here you vote for the party, sure. But what the British people are desperately crying out for is leadership, real, robust leadership, somebody who's willing to actually make decisions, to actually represent the will of the British people. I think there are some people who look at reform and maybe they still don't entirely trust them because they've been so disenchanted with the political system and the political class. But the reality is that Nigel Farage has the ability to do that more than anybody else. And I think, actually, Andy, you're wrong. wrong that it's on issues like living standards. It's on things like immigration, on sovereignty, those really core issues where people feel that they are existentially threatened, that their culture is dying.
They don't recognise their country.
Yeah, they need somebody to stand up for Britain, for England, for the English, and say, look, we've had enough of this. We didn't consent to these things, and we want to try and turn it around.
I do think it's about living standards, though, because I think everything you've said is correct, but Reform's popularity is also in part a rejection of the failure of 14 years of Conservative government and what people see as the failure of the current Labour government, right? And a lot of that is people getting poorer and people feeling that their lives are getting worse.
All right, Andy Williams, Emma Trimble, thank you very much.
Thank you both. Let's get your news headlines with Tatiana.
Ben, thank you. The top stories. Scottish Labour's Davy Russell has won the Hamilton by-election. Mr Russell took top spot with 8,559 votes. The SNP placed second with 7,957 votes, with Reform UK closely taking third with 7,088 votes. The Tories, meanwhile, dropped to just 6% of the vote. Upon being announced winner, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's party.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, shrugged off the loss, painting it as a win.
I expect the other two main parties will be reflecting, goodness me, what have we got wrong that someone could come from nowhere with limited resources and achieve such an outstanding result.
Meanwhile, Zia Youssef has quit as chairman of Reform UK with immediate effect, saying he no longer believes getting a Reform government elected is a good use of his time. It follows a row over what he described as dumb burqa ban questions from Reform's newest MP, a policy he said wasn't even party-backed. Nigel Farage says Youssef had clearly had enough, but called him a huge factor in the party's rise. Meanwhile, Labour's accused Reform of not being serious, while the Lib Dems mocked Youssef for, quote, sacking himself. And Elon Musk says Donald Trump appears in files relating to the disgraced paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. He gave no evidence for the claim. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed the comment. Musk has called for the president to be impeached. It's the latest in a string of barbs between the men as they appear to have dramatically fallen out in a public spat. Epstein killed himself in his jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking minors. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more at 11.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3531 and €1.1856. The price of gold, £2,484.42 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,811 points.
Done.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
OK, let's go live now to GB News political editor Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Hamilton in Scotland. And I believe he has Anas Sarwar with him. Chopper, what's going on?
That's right, Ben. With me now is Anas Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader. Anas Sarwar, you are delighted by last night's win. You said in your victory speech moments ago that you wanted Keir Starmer to go further. What did that mean?
Look, what I'm saying here is that we've got to listen to what the voters told us here, and ultimately they told us three things. One, they want rid of this SNP government that's done so much damage to our country over the last 18 years. I know that'll be a feeling felt by many GB News viewers in Scotland, and the only way of getting rid of the SNP is by supporting Scottish Labour next year in the Scottish Parliament elections. Don't listen to the noise or the nonsense from Reform, or indeed some of the commentators on GB News who want to amplify the nonsense of Reform. Instead, listen to what's happening here in Scotland. If you want rid of the SNP, only we in Scottish Labour can do it. Secondly, they have rejected actually the politics of Nigel Farage and Reform. And third, they've also made clear that they do want a UK Labour government to go further and faster and demonstrably improving their lives. And I think that's a message we've heard loud and clear.
But you were surprised by last night. You went against the odds, against what most people thought would happen.
Look, I wasn't that surprised. Of course, we knew we were in the race. We didn't think we were guaranteed to win. I think the most people that are surprised are the political pollsters, the pundits, the commentators and the bookies, who frankly all got it wrong, and we proved to them that the circumstance on the ground is very different than what they want to commentate on. They might want to focus and fixate on the rights and wrongs of a UK Labour government. They might want to fixate on issues that Reform tried to bring to the table in this by-election, but what the people here care about is improving their lives and getting rid of this SNP government. So I say quite clearly and openly to any GB News viewer in Scotland, if you want to get rid of the SNP, if you want a change of government, if you want a different direction, whatever your views on a multitude of issues, next year the choice is this: a third decade of the SNP with John Swinney in charge, or a new direction of Scotland with a Scottish Labour government. So if you want to beat them, you've got to vote Scottish Labour.
Are you worried though about the appeal of Reform? They won 58 votes in 2021, more than 7,000 last night. They ran your team a close third. Why are people turning to Reform UK in Scotland?
Well, I think there's a few different factors. I think there was always quite a significant Conservative Party vote in this constituency. That clearly has transferred en masse to Reform. Secondly, there will be people who are frustrated with both governments and therefore chose to vote Reform as the kind of protest vote in this by-election, but next year they got a chance to change the government by supporting Scottish Labour. And third, some of them will have fallen for the frankly nonsense spouted by John Swinney, where he pretended that this was a straight choice between the SNP and Reform. So people thought maybe they had to support Reform in order to beat the SNP. That is clearly proven not to be the case. So I say quite simply, if you want to get rid of the SNP, if you want to end the damage that has been done to our country by the SNP, if you want to get onto the right priorities, not the obsessions of the nationalists, then you have to support Scottish Labour next year in the Scottish
If they win, say, mid-20s MSPs, going on last night's result on the list system next year, they may keep you out of office. You may have to form some form of coalition with Reform to form a government.
No, I don't accept that, because the system here is, of course, you have the first past the post seats and then you have the list seats. There is not a single constituency in the country that Reform can win. And in the vast majority of constituencies, it is a straight choice between Labour and the SNP. So if you want to get rid of the SNP, you need to support Scottish Labour. And if we overwhelmingly win the constituencies, I believe that makes sure that we have a Scottish Labour government and the SNP are removed from office.
What's your message now to Nigel Farage? He's probably bought a kilt now. He'll be up in more often, won't he?
All I'd say is good morning, Nigel. Eid Mubarak, and I hope you enjoy the result last night.
And just very finally, will you debate him on GB News ahead of the election next year?
Well, look, next year's election is not about Nigel Farage as much as Nigel Farage will want to make it about him. So in advance of that election, if Nigel Farage wants to challenge me on my views, no problem, I'll challenge him on his views. But next year, in the Scottish Parliament election, he can keep his nonsense elsewhere, because the choice is not between Nigel Farage and Scottish Labour. It's not between Nigel Farage and John Swinney. The choice next year is a simple one. Either it's going to be John Swinney as First Minister, or it's going to be me. And if you want to end the rule of the nationalists, if you want to stop a third decade of them, if you want to end the risk of independence, if you want to stop SNP waste, if you want to end the wrong priorities of this SNP government, you only have one choice to do it, and that's by supporting Scottish Labour.
Anna Sarwar, thank you for joining us on GB News.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you. Thank you. Anna Sarwar there, the victorious Scottish Labour leader, with a message to Nigel Farage. He will debate him if Nigel Farage accepts it ahead of the next year's Holyrood elections.
Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Interesting. I thought that was quite a good tack that Anna Sarwar was going on, that if you want to get rid of the terrible SNP, then the only choice is actually the Labour government, Labour Party, rather than the Reform UK. But Reform UK did really, really well. If you look at the numbers and the amount of votes, you'll see that actually there wasn't really that much in it.
26%, up on 2021 by 26 points, of course, because I don't think Reform were there in 21. Labour down 2 points. So Anas Sarwar can take victory laps all he likes, but I don't think it was a devastating victory. If anything, you take from that, whether you're a Reform supporter or not, I think the clearest picture is that Reform have made massive ground in Scotland.
And also, the clearest picture is that the Scottish are sick of the SNP. So the SNP, I think this is a sort of a kind of little monolith of what might happen later on, because obviously these by-elections start to represent what may happen in a general election, which is interesting.
Who do you think would win in a debate between Nigel Farage and Anas Sarwar?
Anas Sarwar was very, very good. He was quite compelling, but I still think Nigel Farage would win.
He's not a bad talker, is he?
No, and I actually agree with a lot of the points he made. I would rather, if I was Scottish, rather have Labour than the SNP. And if you look at the numbers and you look at this, you might think, well, actually, the real choice is between the SNP and Labour. And even if you are a reform voter, you might then consider getting rid of the SNP and voting Labour.
So you'd be Scottish Labour for what, independence?
No, I don't support any. I don't support any of those. I mean, if I was there, I'd probably prefer a reform. You know, but it's the tactic, isn't it? It's tactical voting. You don't want the SNP. They're the worst. So then, you know, that you'd vote.
Also, talking of the SNP, I mean, it's been only a couple of years since we had Nicola Sturgeon. Then Humza Yousaf. I mean, talk
he
about...
was terrible.
I mean, absolute chaos. I think the investigation with Sturgeon is still going on, so we'll be careful what we say, but... absolute chaos, and if you want to talk about low-grade politics, just look at the SNP over the past couple of years.
Although I have to say that Sarah Potchin's question, I don't think was...
You didn't like it, did you?
No, I just think it falls into the bag of that when there's so many other things that we could be talking about. I think she's... You know, you're putting your hand in a hornet's nest when you don't really need to. But stay with us, because time is running out on your chance to win. Oh, the greatest big British giveaway ever. Didn't Nicola Sturgeon or somebody have one of these?
The caravan,
That's
yeah.
right.
The infamous caravan.
The motorhome, yes. This one's worth over £67,000. I think theirs was worth over £600,000.
Goodness me. Here's the details you need to win.
It's the final day to see how you could be our biggest winner to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be spending your summer touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, worth over £67,000. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of four. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things, or just spend it however you like. You have to hurry. Lines close at 4 p.m. today. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. It is the last day, but coming up, we're crossing over to Normandy, where veterans are being honoured on the 81st anniversary of the D-Day landings. And on TV, you will see that the United States Secretary of Defence, Pete Hegseth, speaking.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the weekend brings a lot of unsettled weather to the UK, it's going to be dry and sunny for much of the Mediterranean, although unsettled through the Alps and the south of France. It's across Iberia where it's going to be particularly sunny and hot, with the heat building day by day through Saturday, Sunday and early next week across southern and central Spain. High 30s, low 40s by early next week. Similarly hot across Italy with low to mid 30s. Plenty of sunshine across the board and staying that way into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome if you just tuned in. Where have you been? We are live. This is Britain's Newsroom. Ben Nana here. It's just gone 48 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Morning to you. Hope you're well and you've had a good week and you're having a good Friday. Some emails have come in. Derry Jeffers, you've said, not sure when Reform supporters will realise that they will never form a government. Need to make a decision now. Keep supporting Farage and ruin the political system by giving us more of Labour, or get behind Kemi and make a fight of it. What do you make of that?
Well, I really enjoyed Kemi's performance on P&Qs. I think she's been listening to me now because she's using the word obfuscating and really pinning Keir Starmer down and pointing out that he's not answering the questions, which really winds me up. And it's almost like he's taking us for fools. And I did a niggle or monologue the other week saying exactly that, and I had a word with him to the screen saying that, you know, don't take us for fools. So listening to Kemi now, I preferred that. I really did prefer the way she went about things.
Somebody said, Nana, so Nana thinks that women who wear the burqa are doing it as a fashion statement. Did you say that?
I've never said that. Don't be so ridiculous.
No?
No, I didn't say that. Get your ears tested. No, I didn't say that at all. I just said that I don't see the point of Sarah Purchin asking that question right now. And in a way, I do agree with Zia Youssef that it's kind of dumb to be focusing on that when you should be focusing on the reason why the different cultural elements are entering our society in the way they are, and that is mass migration and,
but
of course...
apparently it was the question her constituents in Runcorn and Helsby wanted her to ask, though.
Well, one of them, she was given several, and she chose that one. She has a choice.
Do you know what the others were?
No, I don't know. Do you know what the others were?
No, I don't know.
No, we don't know what the others were. That's what she said it was, and I believe her, but, you know... We know all about mass migration. Well, stay with us because today marks 81 years since the D-Day marking the anniversary of the Normandy landings.
To tell us more, let's cross over live to Normandy now, where GB News reporter Sophie Reaper is. Sophie, good morning. What's the latest, please?
Good morning to you both. We're here in Bayeux Cemetery, which is the largest Second World War cemetery in France for Commonwealth soldiers. There are 4,648 burials here, and they, of course, are the people we mark today. Those people who sacrificed their lives 81 years ago so that we might have freedom today. And the other group of people that we commemorate today and celebrate today are our living veterans, those people who served during the Normandy landings and risked their lives for us. And I had the absolute honour earlier on this morning to speak to one of those Normandy veterans, Henry Rice. He was telling me about what it means to be here in France for the 81st anniversary of D-Day. This is what he had to say.
I was stationed still in ashore in barracks, and being bored because there was so much seemed to be going on that every time I saw the opportunity to get on a lorry which was going to the docks, I would say, can I come with you please? I had a tap on the shoulder and turned round. I said, hello Derek, God dear, what you... He said, never mind that, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here unofficially as a working party. Oh gosh. I said, where are you? He said, I'm on that landing ship there. So I said, gosh, I still haven't been on a ship yet. So he said, well, help me with my luggage, all this business, what he was collecting. He said, and we'll go on board and go down to my office and we'll have a little talk or two. We're sitting there chatting away of old times and everything, and suddenly there was this throbbing and this noise, and he looked at me and I looked at him because I didn't know what it was. He said, gosh, Henry, quick, up top. Dived up top just to see the anchor coming out of the water.
You were off.
And the little fishing vessel that brought us to the landing ship, and away we went.
81 years on, how important is it to you that we remember all of our troops, the Allied troops, who risked their lives on that day?
Well, obviously it's most important, but having said that, why shall I go different and say, why are certain people in the world today, having lived during this period, why are they trying to do it all over again?
Well, how incredible is it to hear Henry's story there, that he essentially ended up as part of the Normandy landings completely by accident. But also a very poignant message at the end there about learning a lesson from World War I and II. And I think that is something that is very relevant here today at Bayeux while we mark the D-Day year 81 anniversary and commemorate all of those soldiers who either lost their lives or risked their lives for our freedom.
Sophie Reaper, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Just incredible hearing those veterans speak. I mean, it brings a tear to my eye almost. You know, so brave. Just children. Just some of them. The youngest Michael Ellis said was 16 years old.
Would you do it if somebody said, "Look, we're going into war now"? Would you do it? Would you?
It depends for what. I mean.
Well, war. Just say
with who?
With Russia or something, or you know. Would you be prepared to fight for the country?
Probably, but I mean. After how this government treats its own people, it'd be a hard task, but I think you'd have to probably, but yeah. Still to come, more on the reform situation as Youssef steps down. Who will replace him, if anyone? Back in just a tick. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start for some of us, but that early rain is clearing east, and then it's a day of sunny spells and showers. Feeling cool, particularly where we've got some gusty winds in between the showers, but pleasant enough in the sunshine out of the breeze. Here's that early rain. It's pushing into the North Sea by mid-morning. Many places are brighter, but still with a lot of cloud and a mix of sunny spells as well as showers. The best of the sunshine in the south and across some western coasts, but inland, plenty of these showers will pop up. They'll be hit and miss, as is always the case with showers. Temperatures will be around the high teens, so continuing to feel on the cool side for the time of year. Then the showers ease across eastern parts as we end the day, although still some continuing across the north and the east of Scotland. We've got some late sunshine to come through the Western Isles, the Central Belt, Glasgow, for example. Cumbria doing well as we end Friday, but still areas of cloud and showers, particularly across Northern Ireland, and an area of more persistent rain starting to turn up across Cornwall. And this marks the beginning of an unsettled start to the weekend. We've got low pressure arriving from the west, and through Friday night and to the early hours of Saturday, we're going to see spells of rain spread in, especially across parts of Western England and Wales, along the south coast. And the wind will pick up towards the south and southwest as that low pressure arrives. Of course, that will keep things relatively mild, double figures as we start the weekend, but a lot of unsettled weather to begin things on Saturday. The liveliest showers will be across Wales and the west of England first thing. Some thunderstorms, some hail, gusty winds, gales around southern and southwestern coasts. Not good at all if you've got outdoor plans this weekend, but it does turn a little drier by Sunday with a better chance of some bright spells.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock. It is Friday the 6th of June. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and me, Nana Acquia.
The bromance is over. Elon Musk calls for the US President Donald Trump to be impeached as the war of words boils over. It all started, of course, over Donald Trump's tax bill.
Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, but I'm very disappointed.
Labour win overnight. Davy Russell pulled off a shock victory in the Hamilton by-election as support for the SNP collapses and Reform finished third.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of Reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Yes, God bless you, Sir Winston. 81 years since D-Day, and GB News remembers those who laid down their lives to secure our freedom.
You know, he really is in a class of his own. And frankly, I'm sad that he's going.
Reform UK Party Chairman Zia Youssef quits after that row over whether to ban the burqa. But is there any way back into the party for Rupert Lowe?
I'd rather eat razor blades after the way he's behaved and the things he said about us. No.
And he's finally done it. Arise, Sir Beckham. It looks like David Beckham will be knighted next week in the King's birthday honours list.
Yes, forget about family feuds. There's cause for celebration for Sir David and Lady Victoria. I'll have more on the King's Honours list later in the show.
So yes, I did ask you earlier whether you would fight for this country if you were told, so we're fighting Russia, whether you'd go, you talk a good game, but then it comes to the point, you are young, you're of fighting age, would you?
So I said I'd have to, but it depends on the circumstances. And somebody on your say, gbnews.com/your say, said, oh, typical of Ben and his generation, all talk and no trousers, you'd rather sit in the comfort of your studio. If they said today, would you go, well, not asking me, order me to go to Ukraine to fight against Russia, I'd say absolutely not. You know, it's a corrupt war which I think has nefarious agendas. But would I fight for Britain if Russia was on our doorstep or they invaded Poland or a NATO country or they were on the beaches in France? Of course I would. Absolutely. I love my country.
I would as well.
But I don't think we should, my generation and indeed my children and grandchildren should be cannon fodder for false wars.
Well, yeah, but you see, I think a lot of them...
In foreign lands, so just to add, in foreign lands, thousands of miles away, absolutely not.
Well, but that might be what you might have to do. You know, you might have to fight for this country by going abroad or somewhere else. I mean, I would go Nambo. I'd have the hills, I'd have the paints, the stripes, everything.
You could be I said you could be a drone operator.
Yes, I could be a drone pilot or something like that.
You could stay in the safety of the studio.
Well, I'll go out and fight. But what would you do? Would you be prepared to go out and fight for this country? gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top stories. Scottish Labour's Davy Russell has won the Hamilton by-election. Mr Russell took top spot with 8,559 votes. The SNP placed second with 7,957 votes, with Reform UK closely taking third on 7,088. The Tories, meanwhile, dropped to just 6% of the vote. Let's take you straight to the leader of the opposition now, Kemi Badenoch.
Deported. They returned to the very neighbourhoods and streets where they committed their crimes. 2 of the Rochdale grooming gang ringleaders, Adil Khan and Kari Abdul Rauf, fought deportation by claiming their right to a family life under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Rauf even gave up his Pakistani citizenship just to make sure we couldn't send him back. He lost his appeals, and yet he's still here, still in Rochdale, still among the lives he destroyed. Over and over again, We hear of cases like this, where the law is weak or just a mess. Right now, we are turning into a country that protects criminals and ignores their victims, that rewards cheats and punishes those who follow the rules, that sees brave veterans endlessly pursued by the courts into their old age. This can't go on. The ECHR is now being used in ways never intended by its original authors. It should be a shield to protect. Instead, it's become a sword used to attack democratic decisions and common sense. This use of litigation as a political weapon is what I am calling lawfare. It isn't just damaging our security, it's also damaging our prosperity. Today, I'm not talking just about the ECHR. I'm asking and answering a question. What are some of the things that the next government will need to do, things the British people expect it to be able to do, and the very things that governments are struggling to do? But time and time again, when we try and find solutions, we come up with the same obstacles, like the ECHR. And I know many people believe that we should keep pursuing reform. I used to think so too. I fear this is now a lost cause. Reform is not going to work. And I mean this on many levels. We tried that before. 15 years ago, the Brighton process achieved some success, but the Strasbourg court has shown no real interest in fundamental change. Last month, 9 European countries, led by Giorgia Meloni, called for a serious conversation about how the ECHR handles migration. Not radical demands, just a simple request to talk. What was the Secretary General of the Council of Europe's reply? He said institutions that protect fundamental rights cannot bend to political cycles. In other words, they're not listening. In an interview last night, he seemed to backpedal. But he also said that change will be really complicated. Let me translate that. Nothing much will really change. A week ago, the Attorney General stood in this building and compared Conservatives making the case for withdrawal to Nazis. While he may have apologized, it's quite clear this is what he believes. This is the level of debate and analysis I have come to expect from this Labour government. They chose not to support the case made by those 9 EU countries. They have no interest in reforming the ECHR. They quite like the way things are. And I'm afraid we have 4 more years of a Labour government that isn't interested in solving the problems governments should solve. Like deciding who comes here and who stays, how to make prison sentences fair, how to protect our veterans from vexatious legal attacks, ensuring, when it comes to social housing and public services, that British citizens come first, and how to build infrastructure for the next generation quickly without the endless, vastly expensive legal challenges that mean some things never get built at all. Let's start with the single biggest area where lawfare is destroying our country: illegal immigration. Just last Saturday, 1,200 illegal migrants arrived on small boats. It's taking years, sometimes decades, to process these cases, and your money will pay to look after people who have jumped the queue over law-abiding immigrants and those genuinely in fear of persecution. They'll be well looked after. They'll be put up in asylum hotels, forecast to cost taxpayers £15 billion over a decade. Our country has lost control of the asylum system. Hundreds of thousands of people have come here claiming to be refugees, far more than politicians before us ever imagined, almost all passing through neighbouring countries which are perfectly safe. Tens of thousands of them will receive taxpayer-funded legal aid, which is spent on lawyers competing to devise ever more ingenious legal arguments to keep them in the country. One woman, who was refused leave to remain, deliberately joined a terrorist organization to manufacture a claim that she risked imprisonment back home. A convicted paedophile evaded deportation by claiming he was gay and his life would be at risk in his home country. Every day, we see these kinds of cases reported, and tens of thousands of illegal migrants, mainly adult men, take the risk of crossing the channel in small boats because they know we can't even remove criminals and terrorists. Indeed, we help pay their legal fees to help them stay. I will always defend the support we gave people from Hong Kong and Ukraine. But we cannot become the destination for everyone looking for a new home or a better life, nor can we be the world's softest touch. In some years, our approval rate for asylum applications was above 80%. Last year, Japan's was 2%. Britain is being mugged. Our asylum system is completely broken and will require a fundamental rebuild so that the British government, not people traffickers, control it. That means a total end to asylum claims in this country by illegal immigrants and removing immediately all those who arrive illegally and try to claim asylum. We need a new sustainable system to admit strictly controlled numbers of those in genuine and actual need, with Parliament having the final say, not just on the rules, but the exact numbers coming in. I have no qualms about saying this. I come from an immigrant background, and I know that many people who have come to our country, or whose parents, grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents came to this country, followed the rules and arrived legally. They were genuine asylum seekers, they were genuine economic migrants who waited in the queue. They are furious at being lumped in with those who break the rules. The current free-for-all is bad for integration and bad for social cohesion. It is creating more racism, and quite frankly, I am tired of watching people break the rules and get away with it. The reasons why governments across Europe have struggled with stopping the boats are very complex. They are not because of any one particular set of laws or arrangements. It is far more than the ECHR. The Refugee Convention has an impact. So does the European Convention Against Trafficking. It is obvious to anyone who has looked at this that there is no silver bullet. And every day, the problem gets worse. As the opposition, we have put forward tougher policies on illegal migration. A strict numerical cap on legal migration, zero tolerance for foreign offenders, a deportation bill to remove those who should not be here. And the more we build our policy program, the clearer it seems that achieving our objectives means something needs to change. I have always said that if we need to leave the convention, we should. And having now considered the question closely, I do believe that we will likely need to leave, because I am yet to see a clear and coherent way to fix this within our current legal structures. But I won't commit my party to leaving the ECHR or other treaties without a clear plan to do so and without a full understanding of all the consequences. We saw that holding a referendum without a plan to get Brexit done led to years of wrangling and endless arguments until we got it sorted in 2019. We cannot go through that again. I want us to fully understand and debate what the unintended consequences of that decision might be, and understand what issues will still remain unresolved even if we leave. It is very important for our country that we get this right. We must look before we leap, we must be sure of our footing and sure of where we will land. We start from the position that governments need to be able to make decisions for the public good. And if the public don't like those decisions, they can vote for someone else. That's democracy. What we cannot have is a situation in which people want change and vote for change, but lawfare stops governments from making that change. This isn't an accident. It's 30 years of accepting a legal system re-engineered by Tony Blair, and it's reached a peak under this Labour government. Lawfare is also creating stupid decisions. Only a government led by a human rights lawyer as the Prime Minister could give away British territory in the Chagos Islands, pay £30 billion for the privilege, and try to argue it's a great victory. How did we get in this mess? Bad laws passed in a rush. a legal culture that's become more interested in political activism than public interest. Charities and NGOs, who are often largely funded by taxpayers, suing the government to get outcomes they could never secure at the ballot box. Judges applying laws which politicians used to put nice-sounding targets into legislation, resulting in decisions that prevent those same governments delivering what they were elected to do. And in some cases, there are judges on immigration tribunals who appear, from public remarks they have made and from other work they engage in, to have personal views which make them seem not impartial. This whole system needs change. In October, I said ministers needed to be able to make decisions that aren't endlessly challenged. If the law says that the government can't deport a foreign national child abuser, then the law is an ass. And it's time for politicians to change it. The rule of law is precious for Conservatives, and that's why I'm so determined to defend it, not see it abused or distorted through legal activism. Britain has the best legal system in the world. People around the world trust our courts because of the quality of our judges, and that's why it's all the more important that the impartiality of every British judge is beyond reproach. I've seen endless cases of the worst types of criminals, rapists, murderers, paedophiles, allowed to stay in Britain, deportation flights blocked with the support of the current Prime Minister. Human rights laws reinterpreted in exactly the opposite way intended by those who originally wrote them. But it's one thing to see those who break rules rewarded. It's another thing to see those who do the right thing punished. And I'm talking about veterans repeatedly harassed through the courts while terrorists walk free and use courts, those same courts, to sue the government. Under a future Conservative government, this will stop. We are going to fix this. Just before VE Day, I met a group of Chelsea pensioners. They talked about their former colleagues having to give evidence in old age and having to recall in minute detail events that happened 40 years before or risk prison. Morale is suffering, and recruitment and retention are getting harder, just as we need to rebuild our military strength. And it's not just veterans, soldiers on operations face legal challenge too. We cannot run the risk of our troops fighting a war with one hand tied behind their backs. We are going to fix this. This is not what the architects of human rights law intended. They did not foresee mass migration, instant communication, or international criminal gangs exploiting these rights. And over time, simple rights have been stretched and distorted, and it's been turbocharged by the Blairite legal settlement, by Labour's Human Rights Act, which forces our courts not just to interpret UK law through the changing lens of Strasbourg's living instrument, but actually to change the meaning of some laws entirely. It is Labour's Equality Act that saw the preposterous situation of the Supreme Court having to explain to the government what a woman is. This is mission creep, plain and simple. Lawfare is putting our national security, our armed forces, and our sovereignty at risk. And that's why I'm launching the Lawfare Commission today. Its job is simple: to get to the bottom of what's going on and how we fix them with credible replacements. We are going to have a plan for all the lawfare we believe is holding our country back, whether it's the Aarhus Convention or judicial review. But the first question has to be on the ECHR and setting out a path to get us out if that's what we decide to do. We are asking the hard questions that others won't. We are getting the legal detail right. We're thinking about the consequences for all parts of our United Kingdom and how to protect all our human rights, because that is what a serious party does. It would be absolutely unforgivable for a political party to say they're going to leave the ECHR and then after find that the boats don't stop because they hadn't thought about other treaties in play, like the European Convention Against Trafficking, the Palermo Convention, or something else. Although my whole shadow cabinet will be involved, these are legal questions. So I've asked Lord Wolfson KC and the Shadow Attorney General and Helen Grant, the Shadow Solicitor General, to lead this work. They will be joined by some of the sharpest legal minds in the country. They will work fast, they will be forensic, because lawfare is bad for our security and it is bad for our prosperity. So I've set 5 simple tests. These are the things that a Conservative government must be able to do. 1, the deportation test. Can we take back control of our asylum system so Parliament, not international courts, decides who comes here and who stays? Can we lawfully remove foreign criminals and illegal immigrants to their home country or elsewhere, even if they have family here or claim that they would be at risk if sent home? 2, the veterans test. Can we stop our veterans being endlessly pursued by vexatious legal attacks? And can we make sure our military can fight a future war without one hand tied behind their backs? 3, the fairness test. Can we put British citizens first when it comes to social housing and public services? Because we believe that charity begins at home and those who have paid in should come first, especially when resources are limited. 4, the justice test. Can we make sure prison sentences actually reflect Parliament's intentions? Can we stop the disruptive protests which block roads and emergency services without being told it's disproportionate? And finally, 5, the prosperity tests. Can we prevent courts pretending that action on climate change is a human right? How can we make sure we prevent endless legal challenges for our infrastructure projects so that we can actually get things built and control our own planning system? These are not Nazi demands, as Lord Herman might claim. They are basic tests of whether we are still a sovereign nation able to make our own laws and govern ourselves. If the Lawfare Commission makes clear that these tests cannot be passed under the current system, then the system must change. If international treaties, including the European Convention, block us and there is no realistic prospects of changing them, then we leave. No hesitation, no apology. But because it is clear that the ECHR is a major issue, I'm not asking Lord Wolfson if we should leave. That's a political, not a legal question. I'm asking him to set out how we would leave and to consider what the unintended consequences might be, not least in Northern Ireland. If we decide to go down this route, we must do so knowingly. At Conservative Party conference, we will report back on our conclusions. And there will be more to come. Britain is in the grip of 2 political crises. Two political crises, pardon me. A political crisis and an economic crisis. Today, I have focused on the political crisis we face. It is one of legitimacy, of control, of believing that when we vote, it means something, that we are in charge of our destiny. And even if things feel fine for some of us, we cannot ignore those who've been completely failed by the system, like the survivors of the grooming gang scandal, whose lives couldn't feel further from our country's elites. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to set out my views on both of these crises, the 2 biggest questions which any future government has to answer. I'm going to show you why stale answers from Labour and nonsense answers from Reform, who do not do the homework, will fail. I'll also explain why much of what previous Conservative governments did not work either. We got things wrong too. So much needs to change. So I am changing the Conservative Party. The only way to a brighter future is to fix these crises. If we are to have a country that's more united, more stable, more at ease with itself, then we need to restore real opportunity. The ability of people to make something of their lives. That is not true for many in the UK today, and I'm afraid handing out more benefits to ourselves or to foreign criminals is not the answer to the problem. Our country is not alone in facing these issues. Italy is on the front line of mass migration across the Mediterranean. They're grappling with very much the same concerns. Poland and the Baltic states are reappraising their treaty obligations in light of the threat from Russia. Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, they've all raised concerns about the restraints placed on deportations. It is clear that the time for major change is coming. We need to be ready. The greatest danger is allowing lawfare to make this country, the mother of parliaments, less fair, less safe, and less democratic. We can do better than this. Britain needs change, real change, not just words, change. We will protect our values, our democracy, our country, and our people. No more excuses, no more delay. It is time to take back control for real. Thank you.
So that is Kemi Badenoch. She was speaking live there. I mean, my first observation looking at her was, you don't wear the black, you need to wear a lighter colour. But, you know, I did listen to what she was saying, and she came out with, she sort of talked about the problems that we have, even getting out of the ECHR, that, well, you've got the Refugee Convention to think about, the European Convention Against Trafficking, the Palermo Convention, there'll be a lot of things. And what I actually agree with what she was alluding to, was that really we need to investigate what the outcome would be if we did that, getting out of the ECHR.
Another review.
Well, no. What she's saying is she's really... Let's go back to her, because she's taking questions.
Problems for all parties. We live in a very competitive political environment, and we have made it very clear that the situation has changed and we have to be different, and that is what my job is right now, to change the Conservative Party, to make sure we can fight in an era of multi-party politics. Tamara Cohen, Sky News.
Tamara Cohen, Sky News. You say you're changing the Conservative Party, but Nigel Farage's party are doing better at the local elections in England. They did better in Scotland, and the public now regard him as more likely than you to be the next Prime Minister. Do you worry it's too late to change the Conservative Party, and how long do you give yourself to turn things around?
Tamara, if there was an election next week, I think the question you asked would be valid. But as I said in my speech, we have 4 more years of Labour. 4 more years of Labour. What's our country going to look like then? The public just removed us from office. So, of course, they're likely to be angry. And what is really astonishing is how badly Labour is doing. That is why they're going to protest parties like Reform. But as we saw yesterday, Reform is not a serious political party. They have made this announcement without doing any work whatsoever on leaving the ECHR. We are a serious party. We're going to do the work. Because when the time comes for an election, the public are going to want credibility, not just slogans. Thank you. Chris Mason, BBC.
Thank you. Chris Mason, BBC News. Kemi Badenoch, I'm trying to unpick precisely what you mean by what you're saying this morning. To be clear, are you saying that, dependent on the outcome of the review, the commission that will be underway, you might actually come back in the autumn and say, you know what, actually, we've got to stay in the European Convention on Human Rights?
Well, this is why I said I'm asking a legal question, not a political question. That's what those 5 tests are. There were many times over the last couple of years, especially with the Rwanda plan, looking for a deterrent, where multiple legal arguments were made. But as leader of the Conservative Party, almost every shadow minister of mine has brought the ECHR as a problem for them fulfilling their portfolio areas. So we have effectively hired Lord Wolfson to be our lawyer and set out what it is that we need to do. And we will say more at party conference on what exactly the plans are going to be. But what I'm not going to do is just rush out with an announcement and say we're leaving when I know that all of the work has not been completed. We have started doing some work and some thinking, which is why we have come to this point. And that's why I'm setting out exactly how we're going to do this. We want to take the public with us. There are many people who hear this argument and think we don't want human rights. That's absolutely not the case. What we want is a functioning legal system and a country that has a rule of law that everyone else in the world looks up to as a shining light. Catherine Forster.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. Isn't this all much too little, much too late? The public seem to be listening to Nigel Farage. They seem also to be listening to Robert Jenrick. They don't really seem to be listening to you, though, do they?
I disagree, Catherine. How can it be too little, too late? We are not in government. The Labour Party is in government. They're not doing this. Just last week, you heard what Lord Hermer was saying. We're going to have 4 more years of that. Simply shouting out announcements like Nigel Farage is doing is not serious. That's not a plan. Has he looked at all of these conventions? Do they have the competence, the experience, the expertise? We have it because there are many people sitting in this room who tried to do things and saw it wasn't working. And many of these problems have got worse in recent years, like small boats, and we are not the only country dealing with this. That is why Giorgia Meloni is going to the Council of Europe and saying something needs to change. But they're not asking to leave the ECHR either. And what I want us to do is something serious and proper. Just going on TV and making noise is not governing. And quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing politicians make promises that they don't know how to deliver. That is not my style. I'm not going to tell anyone in this country that I'm doing something unless I know exactly how to do it. The Conservative Party needs to earn the trust of the public again. And earning trust starts by being honest, showing your homework, and doing it in a way that people have confidence in you, not just rushing out with a whole new agenda. They need to see that the party has changed. That is going to take time, and I'm going to use that time properly. Thank you. Jason Gray?
That's Kemi Badenoch. She was answering a question from our very own GB News' Catherine Forster, who made a very good question, I thought, a good point, really, because Kemi did say, well, we're going to, we're going to be doing that. That was our plan. And yet they were in for 14 years and they could have done a lot of the things that she's saying now. But I did find it interesting that she said that there are 4 tests, and then I think she said 5. Deportation test, can we lawfully remove paedophiles and terrorists? The veterans test, the fairness test, the justice test, and the prosperity test. And these are all tests that she's going to have because they're thinking of setting up this sort of ECHR-type commission to investigate.
I mean, it sounds like Keir Starmer doing a review into a review. She said there's no silver bullet. Leaving the ECHR wouldn't solve the problem. I mean, there is a silver bullet. Look to the Australians. Tony Abbott solved it overnight. He's turned them back in the water.
No, but she made a point about the lawfare. She wants to set up a lawfare commission. And I
for
do
activist
agree.
judges.
Well, yeah, but I just think I do agree with her on that because they are overturning, policies of the government. But listen, Martin Baxter, he joins us live. What do you make of this? Just your response to that speech.
Well, polling suggests that the top 2 issues for the British public are the economy and immigration, and the public think that the 2 existing parties, both Labour and Conservatives, have not successfully delivered the immigration results that the public want. So Reform are clearly there as an alternative with a harder line. At the moment, the Conservatives are a bit... I'd say it's a bit unclear what they're going to do. We've got this review, but I'd say that the Westminster Big Ben clock is ticking really on the Conservatives being able to actually clarify themselves before Reform completely overtakes them in the polls.
Yeah, and also I would say, Martin, time is running out. We have tens of thousands of people crossing the Channel year after year with no solution to the problem. The safety and the characterisation of Britain's future is at risk. So I don't think the electorate feel like they have time to wait for the Tories to get themselves together, to look into the ECHR, to do a review,
but
to do
you
this
are
and
wise to do that. I mean, because they're not in power. She did make that point.
Well, again, I'm not a Reform cheerleader. Some people might accuse me of being that, but at least we know what they would do, with regards to the boats. It just sounds like more of Keir Starmer's reviews, as I keep saying, a review into the review. One interesting point from Kemi, Martin, I'm not sure if I misheard her, but Catherine Forster from GB News asked a great question about Robert Jenrick, saying, look, he's getting more traction than you as a Conservative at the moment. Was she directing a barb at Robert Jenrick there by saying just by going on TV and delivering sound bites doesn't solve anything? Was that aimed at Jenrick, do you think?
Oh, who can say? But, I mean, I think there certainly is an issue there that the Conservatives and the Conservative leadership do need to be, I think, clearer about what they're about to attract support. They've been playing quite a quiet, sort of semi-passive game, but Reform had just been going up and up in the polls, and the Conservatives, I think, can't wait too long before they get clarity, or people may have stopped listening.
Now, of course, the by-election was a sort of microcosm of what's kind of happening. We saw Labour take the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse seat, which is... there were 6 parties there. Conservatives did very, very badly indeed.
Yes, indeed. First thing to say about that seat is if you compare it with the general election result, it's not unexpected, and compared with Westminster voting intention, that we ran some figures for this seat and the similar Westminster seat. And we expected Labour would win the seat on Westminster voting intention, which is not always the same, with this SNP close behind in second place and Reform in third. As it happened, Labour did about as expected, but a little bit worse. Reform did a bit better, 6% better. But the Conservatives... we're never going to do very well in a kind of seat in, southeast of Glasgow. It's not Conservative natural territory, but they did even worse than would be expected. They got
so this graph we've got on screen here,
there we go.
TV.
Yes,
so the colour to the right, so take Labour for example.
The darker colour is the
one on the right was the expected result, right?
That's right.
So the darker colour of the two.
Yes, and the one on the left with the more solid border and the darker colour is the actual result. Yeah. So Labour, we expected 35, they got 32. That's not bad. SNP expected 30, got 29, it's pretty much on target. Reform expected 20, they got 26, they did a bit better. And you can see the Conservatives and the Lib Dems were squeezed, the Greens slightly up. So it wasn't actually as a shocking result as some people said it was. That Labour, remember, won the similar Westminster seat just last year with almost 50% of the vote. So the big story, it matches what we're seeing in the national polls, which is since last July, Labour down a lot and Reform up a lot. So this poll is, by-election is completely consistent with the national poll results, showing Labour going down and Reform going up. And it's very consistent with our national polling, which at the moment is predicting a Reform majority in Westminster if there was election tomorrow, and Nigel Farage walking into number 10.
All right, Martin Baxter, thank you very much. He's the CEO for the Electoral Calculus.
Right, moving on. The bromance has soured like old milk, hasn't it? Tech billionaire Elon Musk and President Donald Trump throw punches on social media in the White House in what's been described as an epic fallout.
Yes, Elon Musk has claimed on X that Donald Trump is named in the Epstein files. He's also called for the president to be impeached.
Joining us now is US journalist Chapman Bell in the studio. Chapman, good morning. This is like, the thing is, we've had the Reform situation here with Zia Youssef, and the parallel in the US, almost very similar. You know, a tech, I mean, Zia Youssef is a multimillionaire, but a tech mogul pulling out and having a row with the president or the
romances ending.
Well, yeah, I mean, to call it a row, I mean, I think, you know, watching all this unfold last night, it made me think of that scene in Anchorman when Ron Burgundy just says, boy, that escalated quickly. You know, but it's not, you know, an episode of EastEnders or reality TV. This is real life, and it was unfolding in real life last night. And you know, we're seeing two big personalities, two big billionaire personalities falling out publicly, but it does have repercussions potentially. This all started with Musk's dislike of one big beautiful bill, saying it couldn't be big and beautiful at the same time, departing his position as a special government employee, and then really going on the attack. Now, President Trump says this is down to removing the electric vehicle mandate from this bill, which directly affects Tesla. But as you see from the social media, it went from policy to personal, and pretty quickly.
Who do you think has come off worse on this? Because Elon Musk talks a lot about his ketamine and all this kind of thing. He's shown himself to be very erratic. Donald Trump has stayed exactly the same throughout.
He has. He's focused on, right now, the major piece of legislation for his government, for his priority is this one big, beautiful bill. That said, you know, people are pointing out this is not the first time somebody has been very close with President Trump, and then upon leaving, the relationship has dramatically soured. The difference this time is Elon Musk still holds a lot of power. But how he uses this, we'll have to wait to see. I mean, he suggested maybe it's time to start a new political party. He also said that without him, Trump wouldn't have been elected, and potentially, you know, the House wouldn't be controlled by Republicans. So he's taking credit for a lot of Trump's victories so far.
And Tesla shares have really plummeted, haven't they? He could be destroyed by it, though, because one of his powers is the fact that he's one of the richest men on Earth.
Well, that's true, and Tesla shares dropped, I think, 14%. Also, President Trump saying, well, if we want to save money, let's end the government contracts with Elon Musk's SpaceX. However, Elon Musk suggested at one point, maybe I decommission the project. Of course, he's backtracked on that. But the point is, there are billions in play here, but also very significant U.S. priorities.
And I think the two bombshells we've missed are that Musk tweeted that he should be impeached, Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance, the VP, should replace him. But latterly, last night, saying that Donald Trump won't release the Epstein files because he's named in them. We've got to go to the break, unfortunately, but that was the massive nuclear bomb that Musk dropped last night.
And that's when it went very personal.
Yeah. Chapman Bell, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Right, plenty more still to come here. Do not go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, this is your GB News weather from the Met Office. A fair few showers for many of us through today. They are going to ease a little bit later on, but then more thundery, showery rain arriving in time for tomorrow. It's all being driven by an area of low pressure just to the north of the UK, and this is bringing a westerly flow, and it's on that westerly flow that the showers are piling their way in. Through the rest of today, the heaviest showers they'll be across parts of eastern, southeastern England, also some parts of Scotland, and we could see a few rumbles of thunder mixed in with them. But elsewhere, a few showers continuing, but also a drier theme as we go through the latter part of the afternoon, with some decent sunny spells, and in the sunny spells, not feeling too bad. Temperatures peaking mid to high teens, low 20s for some places. Then as we go through this evening, we are going to see some showers continuing across eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Could be some heavy ones still through the end of the day here. Further west, a few showers still, but starting to ease for a time. And a fair few showers continuing across Northern Ireland, but across the bulk of England and Wales through the evening. Yes, there will still be some showers around, but most places will be turning drier. Away from the southwest, that is, because here we're going to see the cloud building and some heavy showery rain feeding in as we go through the evening and then overnight. And that heavy showery rain is going to push further north and eastwards across many parts as we go through, well, the early hours of tomorrow morning. It is going to turn quite heavy and possibly even thundery across southern parts in particular. Towards the northeast, a greater chance of staying dry with some clearer skies, and here it's going to be chilliest, though most places not turning particularly cool. Then as we go through tomorrow, a wetter day for many of us. Looks like the wettest day of the weekend generally. Heavy thundery downpours quite likely, particularly across southern parts of England and Wales. Watch out for some frequent lightning, some hail and some torrential rain as well. Further north, the showers are slightly lighter, but even here the risk of thunder is there. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is 42 minutes after 11 o'clock. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and me, Nana Akweer.
Let's go live now to GB News political editor Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Hamilton in Scotland. Christopher, what's the latest after the by-election last night?
Yeah, hi Ben, hi Nana, welcome back to Hamilton Town Centre. Well, the crowds have dispersed now. About an hour ago, it was teeming with victorious Labour supporters led by Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader. He is delighted. He is the main winner of last night's Hamilton by-election for the Scottish Parliament. He now looks like he's got a chance now of deposing the SNP after 18 years at next year's Holyrood elections. A big moment. They only lost 2% of the vote they had in 2021, but the big gainer, I suppose, in vote share was, Reform UK. They had 58 votes back in 2021. Last night they won well over 7,000, extraordinary, mostly at the expense of the SNP and the Conservative Party, which with the Tory Party collapsed, barely a pulse now north of the border in that party, certainly last night in Hamilton, and the SNP also shed votes. Big concerns then, I think, for both those two parties, and Reform UK is riding high. Moments ago I spoke to Anna Sarwar for GB News, and he had this message for Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage. What's your message now to Nigel Farage? He's probably bought a kilt now. He'll be up in Rotherham, won't he?
All I'd say is good morning, Nigel, Eid Mubarak, and I hope you enjoyed the result last night.
And just very finally, will you debate him on GB News ahead of the election next year?
Well, look, next year's election is not about Nigel Farage as much as Nigel Farage will want to make it about him. So in advance of that election, if Nigel Farage wants to challenge me on my views, no problem, I'll challenge him on his views. But next year, in the Scottish Parliament election, he can keep his nonsense elsewhere, because the choice is not between Nigel Farage and Scottish Labour. It's not between Nigel Farage and John Swinney. The choice next year is a simple one. Either it's going to be John Swinney as First Minister, or it's going to be me. And if you want to end the rule of the nationalists, if you want to stop a third decade of them, if you want to end the risk of independence, if you want to stop SNP waste, if you want to end the wrong priorities as SNP government, you only have one choice to do it, and that's by supporting Scottish Labour.
So Anna Sarwar saying it's a two-horse race, SNP v Labour next election. I would argue, though, that with the support by Reform UK last night, they could have 20 or 30 MSPs next year. That could give them the balance of power. It's not over yet, and it could be fascinating the next 12 months.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Right.
Thanks, Chopper. Right, if you thought it was OK for Sadiq Khan to get a knighthood, some of you may disagree with that. Does this man deserve it? David Beckham, Golden Balls, is looking likely to finally, once and for all, after many, many years, getting his gong. We'll get stuck into that next.
Well, he deserves it, I think. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the weekend brings a lot of unsettled weather to the UK, it's going to be dry and sunny for much of the Mediterranean, although unsettled through the Alps and the south of France. It's across Iberia where it's going to be particularly sunny and hot, with the heat building day by day through Saturday, Sunday and early next week across southern and central Spain. High 30s, low 40s by early next week. Similarly hot across Italy with low to mid 30s. Plenty of sunshine across the board and staying that way into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back.
Time is running out on your chance to win the biggest Great British giveaway ever. Your chance to drive away with a brand new motorhome worth over £67,000. Here are all the details that you'll need.
It's the final day to see how you could be our biggest winner to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be spending your summer touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, worth over £67,000. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things, or just spend it however you like. You have to hurry. Lines close at 4 p.m. today. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, very good luck to you. Our entertainment correspondent Alex Davies joins us now in the studio for the big story on the front page of the Sun newspaper. Alex, what's going on? Golden Balls, David Beckham.
Arise, Sir Becks. Mr David Beckham, or that will be Sir David Beckham, has been reportedly named in the King's Birthday Honours list. He's going to be made a Sir after all of these years. He's just turned 50, quite a nice birthday present for the year, which means we're going to get a Lady Victoria Beckham.
Yeah, she finally gets her ladyship.
It's one of those ones where, like, Beckham's work with the Royals has been well documented for decades. It's always been, why hasn't he got it this year? Why has he been snubbed? There's numerous reasons. One of the main ones was to do with him being implicated in some sort of tax avoidance scheme. He was cleared of that a few years ago. He said he had no knowledge of that, so they thought that that was why he didn't get it. And around 2012, because he did a lot of work to get the London Olympics here, so everybody thought that would be quite fitting, but that didn't come to fruition. He's done so much...
Possibly queuing for the Queen's funeral would have been one of the things that kind of you realise that he really is a proper, you know, he's a real advocate for British.
Yeah, and he
in this country.
He waited like 13 hours, I think it was.
And he talked to everybody who was in the queue. Unlike Holly and Phil.
Unlike Holly and Phil, no, they surprisingly were not on the King's Birthday Honours list.
I think that's the beginning of the end for them, that one.
But even that came with a bit of controversy because the knighthood went to Gareth Southgate last year when people thought, why not Bex? But no, in fact, apparently this year it's going to him. He's he's a British icon.
I'm afraid he does deserve it.
He does deserve it, because it's not just on the football pitch.
I think you're probably right about the waits, because Lewis Hamilton, of course, the Formula 1 driver, he had to wait a very long time. And I understood that was because he moved to Monaco for tax reasons and so on. He eventually got his, though, so there seems to be a change of tact from the Honours Committee. One thing I will say, though, Alex, is David Beckham, some years ago, was revealed to have been complaining about the Honours system. He denies... There were leaked emails, basically, and he was effing and blinding and some certain more serious words in there, which he denies, but eventually he's got his gift.
Well, you should see the emails I've sent off since I've not been...
You would never do that.
Never.
Imagine that.
Never, of course.
Not you.
Right, Alex, great stuff. Sir David and Lady Victoria. I think that's probably the biggest shock for me, Lady Victoria.
No, sure.
I think she'll be happier than what David is.
Yeah.
I actually think they deserve, you know...
Well, it's a bit of a hard time for the family at the moment. The papers have been plagued with reports of a family feud with Brooklyn, so it's just a nice bit of news for all of them, you know?
Indeed. All right, we'll have to wait for ours, Nana.
Well, hopefully mine's coming soon. At least an OBE or an MBE. I can start with that, just in case you're listening. Yeah, that's what I'll get first, I think.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right, that's it from us. Thank you for your company today. I'm back... When am I back? Tomorrow from 9 p.m.
Yes, thank you for your company. I am back tomorrow from 3 o'clock. I've got some cracking guests. You will not want to miss it. But up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily.
What is going on in this Trump-Musk spat? Well, they've been quiet for hours. It's been nighttime in America. But as we approach midday in Britain, it's sunrise in the United States. Could we expect some fiery new exchanges?
Could there even be peace talks, Tom? That's what we're calling them, peace talks these days, the White House arranging. But also, what's going on with reform? Does there need to be some peace talks over here as well as a civil war, or at least turmoil, erupts overnight too? We'll bring you the very latest 12 till 3. Stick with us.
Absolutely. All of that to come after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start for some of us, but that early rain is clearing east, and then it's a day of sunny spells and showers. Feeling cool, particularly where we've got some gusty winds in between the showers, but pleasant enough in the sunshine out of the breeze. Here's that early rain. It's pushing into the North Sea by mid-morning. Many places are brighter, but still with a lot of cloud and a mix of sunny spells as well as showers. The best of the sunshine in the south and across some western coasts, but inland, plenty of these showers will pop up. They'll be hit and miss, as is always the case with showers. Temperatures will be around the high teens, so continuing to feel on the cool side for the time of year. Then the showers ease across eastern parts as we end the day, although still some continuing across the north and the east of Scotland. We've got some late sunshine to come through the Western Isles, the Central Belt, Glasgow, for example. Cumbria doing well as we end Friday, but still areas of cloud and showers, particularly across Northern Ireland, and an area of more persistent rain starting to turn up across Cornwall. And this marks the beginning of an unsettled start to the weekend. We've got low pressure arriving from the west, and through Friday night and to the early hours of Saturday, we're going to see spells of rain spread in, especially across parts of Western England and Wales, along the south coast. And the wind will pick up towards the south and southwest as that low pressure arrives. Of course, that will keep things relatively mild, double figures as we start the weekend, but a lot of unsettled weather to begin things on Saturday. The liveliest showers will be across Wales and the west of England first thing. Some thunderstorms, some hail, gusty winds, gales around southern and southwestern coasts. Not good at all if you've got outdoor plans this weekend, but it does turn a little drier by Sunday with a better chance of some bright spells.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could be our biggest winner yet, touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of four. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.